What's going on, guys? Today we are working on these. Some little shoe art. And we're talking about the value of your creativity. Anytime I make wearable art or I make some limited prints of an original, I think back to this conversation I had a couple years ago that I had with a woman at a group showcase I was participating in. This woman was an abstract artist who made these very colorful paintings that really had this environmental presence and feel to them. While they might have looked like, a bunch of color strokes, you could look at one and find it resembled like an ocean or an open landscape that was out of focus. So it was pretty cool. It was almost like an ink blot, what do you see when you look at this? But it was not black and white. It was, a mixture of colors, and they usually complemented each other very well. Very cool stuff. I wish I remembered her name right now to share with you guys, but maybe after recording this, I'll dig in my emails and I'll find her or something, since she was one of the organizers of this event. But anyway, the conversation we had was around art prints. She felt like, prints cheapened your value as an artist, and I think she was coming from a historic perspective, she was thinking about I guess this makes it futuristic, but you'll see what I mean. She was thinking about 1,000 years from now, essentially if Renaissance painters like Da Vinci had a plethora of prints, out in the world, would we care as much about the, rare number of originals they left? Would they be as valuable? She felt like she'd rather, instead of making prints of her artwork, she'd rather make smaller pieces. She painted on canvas primarily, but she showed me a series of small acrylic paintings on paper that she was doing that were her more affordable series. And you felt that, making a series of smaller pieces would, maintain a higher value over time. And I guess by that logic, an original piece that's accompanied by, say, an unlimited amount of prints is worth less than an original painting that's one of one with no prints ever made. And I mean, she kind of also felt that way about wearable art on t-shirts and whatnot. And I mean, we had an interesting discussion around it. I honestly brought a different perspective. I, presented to her the idea of limited prints and how by keeping prints limited to 10 or 50, it maintains a high value of the print. And, meaning that if an artist becomes in high demand by the masses, that even his prints will be highly desired and receive top dollar. And really his value isn't determined by, how rare the artwork is, but how high the demand is. But I mean, I guess one could argue that by your art being rare, the demand might be higher. So there's that argument. She took that in, and I mean, she found value in this point, but overall, I'd say she held her ground in her belief that, sticking to originals is the best move for all artists. And I mean, I also presented the perspective that the demo of your clientele plays a part. For example, she was an older woman whose clientele were generally older couples looking to decorate their homes with original work. And I mean, this demo is just generally more established financially. They're usually willing to pay a higher price for artwork to place in their homes. Whereas say a younger artist growing an audience on Instagram is more likely to attract, younger people with similar interests, or, you know, people who, just younger people who like art, who want to support their favorite artists on Instagram, but may only be able to afford a print or a t-shirt or a sticker. And, you know, that's all they could afford, but it still makes them a collector and, you know, a supporter. And I think, you know, that brings us to the topic of, you know, today's episode, which is what determines the value of your creativity or your art. You know, does wearable art cheapen your portfolio? Can really anything cheapen the value of your creativity or originality? What is the true value of your art? Who decides this? Who determines it? And, you know, with all these questions, I can't really say I have the right answer or a solid answer to any of these, but what I do have is my own perspective, and that's what I'm sharing with you guys here today. I'm sure most creatives have trouble with these questions, especially, you know, when you're trying to price your work or market your work or merchandise your art into some type of personal brand. And I think the common idea when it comes to like pricing is like, whether it's your, you know, a product or a service, is that generally it's said like your work is as valuable as the market determines, and, you know, aka you're only worth what the general public is willing to pay. I mean, another idea is that you should never lowball yourself and should value your work as high as you think. And I mean, I can't say I completely agree or disagree with either of these, because I deal with this dilemma regularly. Like, for example, when pricing a painting that took me like 50 hours to complete, I sit there like, well, this took forever and it's huge. Like, how many, you know, how many square inches is it? How much do I feel like my hours are worth? I then try to use the answers to these questions to, you know, determine my ideal price. Like, what dollar amount could I receive for this artwork and like feel good about it and feel like I didn't let it go, and like for pennies, and like what would make me happy if somebody gave me this amount? What would make me feel like, wow, like I feel like I deserve this, and I feel like sure, you could be like, this is worth 10 grand, but it's like, you know, try to be reasonable. I try to be reasonable. Maybe one day a piece will be worth 10 grand, but right now I personally don't have any pieces I think are worth 10 grand. I think it just comes down to like how much I value my time. And again, yeah, that's just like, I come up with this ideal number, and then I start to think like, okay, like I'm pricing this at 1,000 or 1,200 or whatever. And then I'm just like, wait, who the F am I? Like, I'm nobody. I'm nobody in this art world. Like, why am I pricing this at 1,100 or 1,200? Like, is it worth it to keep my ideal price as is and hold this painting until like my demand grows? Or do I sell it for a low price just to get it out of my apartment and into the home of a potential collector, where it'll serve as like basically a billboard to whoever visits the person's home? Like, they'll come in, they'll see, oh, that's cool, where'd you get that? I got it from so-and-so, check out their Instagram, he's really great. And now I've made a commercial for myself by selling it for the low, but now it's, you know, living somewhere where it could be seen by more people than the people who visit my own apartment. I mean, it's a tough question, you know, determining whether you should keep your ideal price or like lower it a bit to just get it out of here. But I think only you as the creative can answer this, you know? There really is no question. There is no right answer. It's kind of like a preference, I believe. I mean, personally, I kind of grow attached to my recent works. Like, if I spent 50 hours or something, or like a couple months or whatever, I'm like attached to it. I don't want to let it go right away. So I might price it a little high and just either post it, or if I have a show, it's like, this is the price for this guy. And then if it sells, great. But if it doesn't, I'm just like, I'm not really mad, because I still want to look at it and appreciate it myself at my apartment. And then, later on, as months go by, or, time goes by, I might lower it. Meaning lower the price. But it might not be the smartest move, but I just believe that the demand will be there one day, to a point where people buy regardless of the price I ask for. And I personally, I just don't want to see a piece I spent 50 hours on sold for $100 to $200. That's like, $2 an hour or $4 an hour. And I'm sure most would agree that just isn't fair. But I guess because of that mindset, I don't mind creating limited prints of most of my works, because I know the original might be sitting for a while. And like I said earlier, like, prints give my supporters a chance to have something in their collection that was affordable, and they're still supporting me. And I don't have a problem with limited prints, stickers, or wearable art like I'm working on right now. If anything, wearable art is still original, because you're painting, well, some wearable, because me painting a t-shirt and me getting screen prints on a t-shirt are different. The screen print would be kind of like a print that you would sell for the low, but if I'm making like a one-of-one jacket, you could price that however you want to price it, however long it took you to make that. And yeah, like I said, I don't have a problem with that. The lady I mentioned earlier clearly had a different perspective, but to me, I feel like some of the greatest Renaissance painters, if these dudes had Instagram, man, like, we would have seen Mona Lisa stickers and t-shirts everywhere. And I'm not talking about like random streetwear brands or whatever. I'm talking about, like, if Da Vinci was alive today, he'd be like, yo, get the new Mona Lisa sticker pack, or the Mona Lisa tee. If Michelangelo was alive, there'd be a release of like limited designer toy figures of his David statue. Like, this, that's how I feel. Like, if they were out in 2019, that's what they'd be on. And with that said, like, I just don't think anything can devalue your work. As an artist, I'm simply trying to create a demand for my style. And once that demand is created, I think the possibilities are endless. Like, you create that demand by working out your craft. And if you want to paint on more than just canvas, and you want to do wood panel, you want to do tees and wallets and sneakers and jackets, I think that shows your versatility. Even if you're screen printing on tees and apparel, to me, that's smart merchandising that can act as a billboard for your art, that will build a buzz and a demand for your original art pieces. And maybe this comes from like a different part of my brain that's kind of business oriented, but so be it. Like, that's how I feel. Yeah. I don't know what else to say around that. I also don't think it's a bad idea to create smaller originals for an affordable price either. Really, I think you should do it all. Like, make originals of all sizes, small sizes being most affordable, big sizes being, your expensive end. And also make wearable art. Some people like that. Make limited print releases, stickers, tees. All of these can get your name out there and help you grow your demand. And if they don't, you still, you have some cool designs of your own to wear and decorate with. Like, I made this hat with my Night Demon character on it. It's a little bit comicked out right now with this filter, but I made it in honor of my upcoming solo show. I set the quantity to just 30 so that once we hit that, it's no longer on the market. But if one person or 30 people buy it, I don't care, because I'm gonna wear it and I feel good, because I'm like, I'm wearing my own design right now. Like, this ain't a Nike hat. Nothing wrong with Nike hats or Adidas hats or Chicago Bulls hats. I'm gonna be rocking Bulls hats on this channel regularly. But I'm just saying, like, if nobody wears it, I'm fine wearing it because I think it's cool. And I like wearing my own designs. But, I mean, let me know what you guys think. Do you think there's anything that could devalue your art? I personally don't think so. I think any type of art that you're making could raise the value of your art because you're putting it out there. You're building, you're working on your crafts, you're getting more eyes on it. Yeah, I don't think anything can devalue it. So tell me what you guys think. If you made it this far, thank you for tuning in. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at MahmudTheMedium to see progress on all of my ongoing art projects. If you're wondering if my work is for sale, guess what? It is. Check out my store on Etsy. My links will be in the description below.